Wright, 4511 South Ocean Boulevard, apartment 807 in Highland Beach, Florida, 33487. Harold's phone number is area code 407-272-6593. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center at Harold's home in Florida on January 13th, 1989. This is tape number 1 of 2 tapes. Okay, Harold, we're on. Maybe you could give us your name and address and phone number, if you would, please.
Harold E. Wright, and it's 4511 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach, Florida. Telephone number is 272-6593.
Okay, what's your zip code down here?
It's new one.
Oh, gee, really? That's okay. I've got that, so I can I'll put that on the tape on the meter. So
it's a brand new one.
Okay. Harold, maybe you could just go back to when you started at Oldsmobile, and when was that, and where was that, and what were you doing?
Well, I hired in at when the employment office was up on Division Street.
Okay.
And Miller was the employment man. And I hired in as an inspector on the line.
Okay. Car assembly?
Yeah. No, motor assembly.
Motor assembly.
Motor assembly.
All right.
And I guess I stayed in the motor plant for quite a few years.
When did you start? What year?
1929, I think. No, 1928.
All right. 1928.
1928, and it was February, about middle of February.
Okay.
And I think it was about the time of the Depression, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Come along, growing along pretty fast there. So in 1932, we were laid off quite a few months.
Were you still down in the engine plant?
Yeah, I was still there when I was laid off. Then I came back and worked about 2 months. In those days, you'd work a few hours and then go home.
Because of the
production was very limited.
Yeah, because of the Depression.
Yeah. And I don't think I worked much at all in 33 after that.
What?
Maybe 2 months.
What were we making in the engine plant when you were working on the engine line? What kind of engines?
6 cylinders.
6-cylinder engines.
Straight 6. Straight 6-cylinder engines.
Where was that engine assembly line?
Well, it was quite near where it was part of the engine plant now, or was when I left anyway.
Yeah.
Building 28, wasn't it?
28, okay. Along the wall, the east wall of 28
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, that's where the line went, right down along that east wall.
Where the windows were right there by.
And the parking lot was just outside.
All right.
It wasn't there at first, but eventually they got the parking lot.
Okay.
We parked our cars in there.
Yeah.
In fact, the first few years I was there, all of us parked our cars inside between that and the next 34 over there.
Oh,
between
is
those
that
plants,
right?
we had a parking lot there.
Uh-huh. Which way did the line go?
It went north to south.
Okay. Did it flow north?
Yes.
All right. And where was there an engine test room or something?
Right up in the front of the building was an engine test room, big one. Yeah.
And they ran all the engines.
Every one of them. Every one of them got run. They got tested and got okayed right there. And quite a crew in there.
Okay. Did they do machining in that area too?
Oh yeah.
Machining.
Yeah, the connecting rods, pistons, and all that camshafts were all machined and all fed right down lines to that main line.
Okay.
And the cylinder blocks came in, and in those days we took the cylinder blocks and stored them outside for a year.
Really?
Yes.
What was that for?
To season them.
Oh, okay.
They would make one cut on the cylinder bore, and then they let them sit there all that time so it would season.
Isn't that
And then
something?
we'd make a final cut when we brought it in, and it would be...
They would just get all rusty and everything?
Oh, they'd be terribly rusty, awful rusty. But then we would clean them up and
Yeah.
put 'em on.
Uh-huh. Now, let's see, Harold, someplace in there, we made a V8 engine.
Yes.
The Viking V8, I
Viking
think it
engine.
was.
That was after the Depression.
That started sort of in 29 and ran into 30 maybe, and then I think the Depression got it.
Yeah, we built some more of them though. The next building over there, we put that in that V8 engine. That was called the Viking.
Yes.
And
Did you get over there at all?
yes, I was over there some. And Cliff Butter, I think they made him one of the big wheels there.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, and Roy Fischel was in there too. But they
Did they assemble that engine on the same line as,
no.
the 6?
We had a separate line for that.
Separate line over there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they run that V8 down that line. And I think, well, they had a test room right in the front of that building too.
Okay.
For that engine. It was a pretty good, I always thought that was a pretty good engine. But,
Yeah.
Bessie, are you? Okay.
I shut off.
Oh, that's all right. Let it go. She'll be in there. Well, anyway, that engine went along for a few years, and they stopped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a nice car. I liked the car.
Okay.
It was a nice car.
Did they make all the parts for that engine too, Harold?
Just
like
about.
rods and
Yeah.
cranks? And...
Well, I think we farmed out a few of them,
Okay.
but very few.
Mm-hmm.
And the piston was a smaller piston.
It was a...
Yeah, and things like that.
Yeah.
The 6 was very popular even then, but the V8 was something new, you know.
Yes.
And they never got that V8 to be as perfected like for timing and all that, like the new ones.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
But it was a good car. And then after that, we built a straight 8.
Okay.
The next thing came in that line was a straight 8 over there.
Was that on the 6 side again?
No, I was on
On the other side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had
Two
two
engine
engine assembly lines,
Yeah.
one for 6s and one for 8s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I can't remember, but I think eventually they got it so they could combine it. No, I'm not sure because I was out there. I know
You
that.
had left, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway,
I wonder why they went from the V8 to the straight 8 then. I mean, it was just a year or so difference as I remember, and then straight 8 came to
Yeah.
pass.
that's about right. Well, the straight 8 at that time offered a much smoother engine.
Really?
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it did. And it was quite a car in its day, but it never had the punch that it should have.
Uh-huh.
It never did.
Yeah.
It never really did. But it was a smooth car, very smooth. But I remember it would cruise along at 60 real nice.
Yeah, yeah. What did you do as an inspector there during those early days?
Well, I did everything. In fact, once they decided they were going to pick 3 guys to go through and work on every operation in the plant.
Okay.
Every one of them.
Yeah?
And I was one of the 3.
Oh my goodness.
So I think it took me over a year to get through there.
You actually ran every machine in the
Every
place?
machine.
Holy
Knew every one of them. And maybe I'd run it for 3 or 4 days,
Uh-huh.
each one.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of machines then
Oh, I
too.
can imagine.
They weren't separate.
We didn't
weren't
have
all
the
combined.
the transfer machines.
No
did we?
transfers.
Yeah.
Anyway, I worked on that, and there were 3 of us did it. I remember in the end, one of those fellows went with some other company, and the other one died. And I was the only one.
The only one left. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the purpose of that?
So we'd have the knowledge of how everything was done, and couldn't anybody slip us up on anything.
I see.
Because we knew.
Yeah.
They might have been thinking then of me as supervisor.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they were.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, we knew the ins and outs of every damn thing in there in those days. Not later on, but I'm saying it those days.
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah. And it was a lot of single-purpose machinery?
Oh, yes,
machinery?
yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they had a raft of people working there. You put them in, take them out, put them
Yeah.
in, take them out. That's the
All
way it was.
hand load and...
Yeah, and unload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Were the, Was it extremely dirty? I'll call the plant dirty, or how was that
There was an
handled?
awful lot of dust on some floors. Yes, they were. You get pretty dirty in there.
Did
these
you?
days.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and especially now, take the cylinder block bar. That was a real dirty one because these blocks had sat out and the dust
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything would roll up as you started to machine them.
Yeah.
Things like that, and
A lot of cutting fluids. Did you use cutting
yeah,
oils
oh
in
yeah,
those
cutting,
days?
all kinds of it.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Did you have anything that you thought was the most fun from your standpoint, operational?
Oh,
What you liked the most?
yeah, I thought a lot of those machines were fun as far as that was concerned. And I especially liked the crankshafts when we were machining them and things
Okay.
like that.
We were grinding, weren't we?
Yeah.
Grinding
Oh, yeah.
cranks, pins,
Yeah.
and
Pins, yeah, and all that. And,
were we honing cylinder blocks?
oh yeah, we honed them.
Okay.
I checked the honing. And right after they honed them, they pull them out of there, and that was kerosene.
Yeah.
You know, and pull them out of that, push them in, pull them out,
Uh-huh.
and shove them over to me, and I'd hone it and tell them what it would.
Were you
cast.
doing one cylinder at a time?
Oh, yes.
Just one cylinder, boom.
Just like this, boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a little indicator up at the top. And by reading this, you could tell just how round it was,
Yeah.
and everything.
So you use that as your gauge, so
Yeah.
to speak.
And, yep. And that's the way that went for,
Mhm.
we used to have an old Swede in there, Axel Krohn, used to run that
Yeah.
cylinder block.
Yeah.
Quite a character. He was a real character, in fact. He was the king of the Bull of the Woods, what we used to call him, the
Okay.
Bull of the Woods.
One of the old classic.
Yeah, he's a real classic Bull of the Woods.
Mhm.
He'd fight at the drop of a hat.
No kidding.
Yeah, if anybody got real cocky, he'd say, "You come up to my house and we'll have this out afterwards,"
Mhm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
And he did. He was tough.
Uh-huh. How did they pick foremen or whatever you call them in those days?
Well, I don't know. I couldn't really tell you.
Okay.
I think they might have looked at somebody and said, "I think he'd make a foreman."
Uh-huh.
That might be it.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
some cases. And of course, they looked at the sharpest man they could find
Yeah.
too as he came in. And
Were there any women in the workplace?
yes,
There were?
Yes, there were lots of women. On that line on pistons,
Uh-huh.
assembling the pistons and all
Yeah.
through there were lots of women in there.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
They'd come, and most of them were Southern gals too. They'd come
Oh,
up-
really?
Yeah. They'd come up from the south. And
Uh-huh.
there were a lot of them in the motor plant and axle plant, all over. I had a pretty good turn in getting around all the
Yeah.
parts in the
Oh,
plant.
that's great. What an experience.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much you got paid?
55 cents an hour to start off.
Wow.
And when they made me a foreman there in the motor plant, and I had the heat treat too, which was in back there.
Yeah.
That was, I went on salary. Now this is something, you'll be amazed. And I had to take a cut and pay because I'd been working overtime.
Oh, no.
And I had to take a cut and pay. I went home and I didn't know whether to take that darn job or not, but I decided I'd take it because
Yeah.
I thought maybe supervision would be better
Yeah.
in the long run. But we didn't get paid anything for overtime on supervision,
Oh,
but the
okay.
hourly did.
Yes.
And so I took a cut, I'd say, of about $25 a month.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
To go on salary.
How many, was that an 8-hour day in those times?
Oh no! Oh no!
Uh-huh.
12. If it depended on how many orders they had.
Yeah.
We just stayed until they got them out.
I see.
I've worked as late as 8 and 9 o'clock at night after
Wow.
coming in at 5 in the morning.
Normally 2 shifts did you run in the plant?
Well, when they got to 2 shifts, you didn't have so much of that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it
Okay.
wasn't 2 shifts at first until you got up there pretty
Uh-huh.
good.
All right.
They made sure that it was going to
Yeah.
be steady enough for 2 shifts.
Yeah. You remember by any chance how many engines, like per hour, they could make in those?
Well, in those days, we made, you won't believe this, 60 an hour.
Really?
60 an hour down that
Isn't
damn
that
line.
something? Yeah.
That was a 6-cylinder on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Now, I don't think we ever got that V8 up to
Yeah.
that, but the 6-cylinder line is
60
above
an hour.
60 an hour. There
Isn't
was
it?
no fooling on it.
Yeah.
There was no fooling. That thing was pretty well mechanized.
Uh-huh.
If you didn't have enough help, you put in a couple more.
Just kind of threw people into
You
the
threw
line.
people in to do it.
Uh-huh.
You're darn right.
Uh-huh. Did they have any, like air wrenches and those kinds
Oh,
of
yeah.
things?
We had air wrenches.
We had those tools.
We had tools that were air wrenches, and we had conveyors that would have rollers, and like a crankshaft. It would come down a conveyor line.
Okay, to you.
To me, yeah.
Mhm.
And then I'd pick it up like this.
Manhandle the thing in?
Then, then later we got a hoist, one of these air deals that
Yeah.
you put on it. Pick it up, put it in.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But that's the way we did things in those days.
How was the concern for quality in those days?
Real high.
How did they address the, what I'll call it, quality
Oh, yeah.
paradox?
Yeah, we had a chart. We watched our quality.
Did you?
Yeah, we watched quality real close.
Yeah.
And usually it was pretty good. Now I remember once I had a friend of mine and he bought a new Olds, and we were driving down to Battle Creek, and all of a sudden it started howling. Well, he says, "What the hell do you suppose that is?" And I said, I don't know, you got me, but it's howling pretty good. We better get out and see.
Yeah.
We looked, and the rear end was hot as hell.
Oh, the differential.
Yeah, differential.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what I think? I think they forgot to put the oil in that.
No
and that's
grease.
what it was. No
Uh-huh.
grease in it at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And once those would slip out once in a while,
Mhm.
because somebody just didn't do their job.
Mhm.
And I don't know. We used to. We went back and made them stick their finger in every
Yeah,
one of them
to
after
make
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What kinds of things would the guy on the engine assembly line look for as an inspector? What was?
Oh, it depended on where he was stationed. Every
Okay.
station had a group of things they checked.
All right, each
And you-
segment of
yeah,
the line?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you'd have maybe 5 or 6 stations going up that line.
Okay,
And they would check every one of those. Then, when it got to the test room, then they'd see if it would run,
yes.
and everything would hit. They had all those things that they had to
Uh-huh.
go through and make sure it ran.
Yeah. Did you keep data or
Oh,
charts?
yeah, we
and
had
that kind of
charts,
stuff?
we had charts, we had all that. We used everything like that we could. But we didn't have quality control, that was known in those days. We
All
didn't
right.
have that.
Yeah.
That came in later.
Did the inspectors work for the manufacturing people, or there was a
No,
separate group?
There were a separate group.
Mm-hmm.
Separate group, and they did not report to the manufacturing group.
Okay. Were they looked upon with a jaundiced eye, so to speak, by the production people?
Quite often,
Mhm.
because the production people want to get them out.
Yeah,
And
volume, I
yeah,
guess.
and these fellows would turn them down.
yeah.
In fact, but I always did find, now like Axel and I had an altercation once.
Who was that?
Axel Krohn.
Oh,
the
okay.
bull of the woods,
Yeah,
so to speak. And I had been working in the block floor, and I had a man throw off, maybe 50 blocks because there was a defect in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had them piled over the side and a tag on them. Well, he came down and saw it, and after I had left, and he put them back on
Oh,
the
goodness.
line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard about it and got right down there, and he started giving me a lot of guff. Of course, I said, "Now wait a minute. You and I are going up to the office." Roy Fischel was,
Okay.
and Frank King were the top dogs
Okay.
in those days. And I said, "We're going up to the office and see this." And so we started up, and so, it's a long ways from the block floor
Mhm.
up to Fischel's office.
Mm-hmm.
And we got halfway up, and Axel says, "Harold," he says, "I would be tickled to death to just call this off right now."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He backed down.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
I said, "No, Axel," I said, "damn you, you did this, and I'm going to take you up there, and we're going to have it out right here." I said, "I'm not one to fool around.
Mhm.
You know that."
Yeah,
We went up there, and I presented the case the way it was,
yeah.
and boy, did they thrash him out.
Really?
Really did.
That big tongue
Yeah,
thrashing.
yeah, really did.
Yeah.
So, well, things like that happen.
Yeah,
No, they're right. But he and I never had any trouble after that.
Mm-hmm.
We always got along good.
Where the offices were up at the north end of the building,
Yeah,
Harold?
yeah, they were the north.
Well, was there something on the second floor at that time?
Yes, there was a cafeteria up there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I had a tool room up there too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I had a
All
tool
right.
room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and lockers. When we went in the morning, the lockers were on the east side of that building.
All right.
Upstairs.
Uh-huh. On that long skinny
Yeah.
corridor that
Yeah.
followed along the side?
And right in the back of that was a tool room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was interesting. I always enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Place.
Yeah.
As far as working there, I always enjoyed it.
Well, now, when did you then become a supervisor?
Oh, it must have been in the late 30s or early 40s. I can't
Okay.
remember which. I became a foreman.
All right.
And in those days, I had I had the area that went down into the heat treat. The heat treat became quite an important part of that plant too. Before that, we bought a lot of stuff that was
Outside heat treated?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And even after I got there, we had some of it that was done. But we bought new furnaces, put them in, big ones. And that's when we got the conveyors that we could put them in this end to
They come out the other end?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What were there before that?
Well, we had lots of small heat treating.
Kind of batch?
Yeah.
Where you
Yeah.
put in a rack or
Yeah.
something and pull it out?
That sort of deal.
Uh-huh.
And we got a lot of stuff from Saginaw too that was already heat treated.
Okay.
Yeah.
During the 30s, was that whole time frame spent with kind of on again, off again work?
No. After we got to going, in 1936, we started building up pretty good. The line runs steady.
Yeah.
We run steady in 37, a little lull in 38, but then we got to going again in 39
Okay.
and 40. We were going good. Then in 41, of course, along
Yeah, the war.
the war.
Yes. Well, now, were you a supervisor at
Yeah,
that point?
I was a
Okay.
supervisor, and
Well-
I had to work on the deal of mothballing that damn stuff.
All right.
So, and then we put an awful lot of that equipment over in the axle plant,
All right.
so we could make shells
Uh-huh.
and cannons in those plants in the middle.
Okay. So you just tore all of it, you just kind of cleared the
Cleared it
area,
out, put it over there,
moved it up into building 21
Yeah.
and stuck it away.
stuck it away up.
Uh-huh.
And then, so then we put all that equipment in to make cannons, shells, all that stuff. That was quite a job. And I thought, of course, I'd be going to the war.
Yeah.
And one day they called me in and said, no, you aren't going. You got this to do, and this to do, and this
Yeah.
to do. So, and I had quite a little bit to do with making records that would keep things where we could find them when we got through, you know.
Okay.
And of course, I had to go back there when we got through and get the damn things
Bring it
up.
all back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Help
But
me
did,
back.
did you, during the war, what did you do then?
Well, I was a supervisor. Let's see, in those days, I think I was general foreman. Yeah, I was a general foreman
All right.
as a cannon plant.
Where was that, Harold?
That was in 38.
That was in 38,
Yeah.
okay. What kind of a cannon were we making?
We started out making 75 millimeters and wound up making 90 millimeters.
Oh, good sized gun,
Yeah.
that. Uh-huh.
I well remember that because I was sitting over the office with them when we were getting ready to get started. And I can't remember who the hell it was. Oh, it was Russ Hansen.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the moguls in that, and
Yeah.
I dealt with
Yeah.
him quite a little bit. And he said, how long do you think it's going to take us to get going on this? And I said, well, I don't think it's going to be real fast because these things start slow, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of, they're not our line of work, but I said, I think it'll take us a little while. And so, it did. But I said, after we get to going, we'll go good. Well, the guy that they sent down, I can't think of his name now, to Washington to tell him about when they were first talking about this. They said, how many can you build for us? And he says, how many do you want?
Oh, turned it around on
Yeah.
them. Uh-huh.
And he said, oh, we want all we can get. Well, he said, as soon as we get tooled up, he said, I think we can give you all you want. And we started out, maybe it'd take us 2 or 3 days to build one.
Yeah.
But after not very long, a week or two, we were building one an hour.
Okay.
And then it went on up, and in the end, we were building 20 an hour.
Wow.
With those big cannons.
Uh-huh.
That's really rattling them out.
Yeah.
That darn way. In fact, the Arsenal had never made over 1 or 2
So
a
we
week.
showed those guys something.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they learned quite a lot
Yeah.
from us.
Where did all that machinery come from, Harold? Did we buy it?
A lot of it we bought. I know, like the turret lays and things like that.
Uh-huh.
We got them out of Detroit there.
Yeah.
And they could tool up. They made them already, so they
Yeah.
made them for pistons and things like that. They could
Yeah.
get those going fast. But these long hones and all that, they came from these big honing companies. And we had took an awful lot of them, I'll tell you that.
What kinds of parts, it must have made a barrel, I guess.
Oh, yeah, made
were
a
there
barrel,
other-
breech block,
The breech block?
breech
Okay.
block.
Was it a fireable gun when we got done?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I went right down the proving ground.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
We took them down to Aberdeen, proving ground,
Mm-hmm.
and fired them. My gosh. They told me to keep my ears plugged, and I did. Because I can tell you, you
Wow.
could lose your hearing. A lot
Yeah.
of them did lose their hearing.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky. My wife says I don't hear too good today, but I don't know. I think I do pretty good for
Yeah, yeah.
my age.
Was that whole set of buildings there, building 36 and 38, used for that then, during that time?
Oh, yeah, and more than that, even the final assembly.
The car assembly plant?
Yeah, they even had lines going down through that
Okay,
that they made shells on.
all right.
And things like that.
Now, that's the one that's out by the river,
Yeah.
the diagonal one,
Yeah.
building 32.
32, yeah.
Okay.
32.
Mhm.
Yeah, we turned into that. And,
Did we make things, how about in the press plant? What was going in that area?
Shells.
We were making shells in the press plant.
you know,
And then in the 28 area, what were we doing? Where the other engine line used to be?
that was all machines.
That was all machining too?
Machining guns.
Guns, all right.
Guns.
Uh-huh.
They made a 20 millimeter there too.
All right,
That went in cannons, or in planes,
all right.
and like that, the 20 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had to go down to Wright-Patterson was that. I had quite an incident down there. He told me, I was told to go down there and meet Colonel Larry Linger.
Okay.
So I got down there, and I said, I want to see Linger. And they took me into an office, and there sat a woman.
Uh-oh.
And I said, is your name Linger? And she says, yes. I said, well, I was supposed to see Colonel Larry Linger. Well, she says, I'm a colonel, and that's not Larry.
Oh, okay.
You know, he and his wife both were
Were colonels?
colonels in that,
Oh, isn't that something?
in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and I traveled quite a little bit during the war,
Mhm.
all those places.
Mm-hmm.
I had another incident. Once I flew down to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was going there. That's after the war. We were trying to get set up and building some things, and I said I got off the plane, and there was a colored fellow here with a car to take me.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and told me, he says, I'm here to take you. And he says, Mr. Pugh wants to see you. And he says, yeah, I'm supposed to see Mr. Pugh. Well, it turns out Mr. Pugh run this plant, but it wasn't a General Motors plant. It was they were making some parts for us that
Yeah.
were we were purchasing
Mhm.
through them. Well, anyway, the funny part about it is he took me to the hotel that night, and he says, now in the morning, he says, Mr. Pugh wants to see you the first thing. He says, I'll be here and pick you up and take you out the plant. And so I got to writing along with him, and I said, well, Mr. Pugh is quite an important man down here, isn't he? He says, Mr. Pugh is the boss here.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. He is the boss.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I got along good with him when I got to know him. He was a real good friend of Tom Downey's.
Oh.
In fact, he ran a Chevrolet plant here, and Tom Downey ran one over here.
All right.
So they both
Okay.
knew each other
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
Tom came with us.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. The War Production Herald, did the plant do anything special about security or that kind of thing?
Yeah, they did some. I think they could have done more, maybe. There were some things that were
Mhm.
kind of bad about that situation.
Did people still park inside the plant at that time?
No, they did, but they started to get them out.
Uh-huh.
Put the fences up and get them out. But
Okay.
yes, we did park inside some of us.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think anybody that was a general foreman on them could park inside.
Park in the plant? Mhm.
Yeah. And
What do you think was maybe the most unique happening that happened during that wartime at the plant?
well, I think the fact that we produced as fast as we did was a very unique
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's not an incident, because I
No.
think everybody did, but
Yeah.
I think most people put their effort right into it. and did a real good job.
What, were there a lot more ladies in the plant again at that time? Because of
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah,
war,
we had
all the men
lots
gone?
of women,
Uh-huh.
lots of women working, yeah. There were quite a few men in there too, though.
There still were some men?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
lots of men.
Yeah. What, was it a heavy overtime period of time when everybody
yeah.
just really
Oh, yeah.
churned?
I remember one night, Arnold Hanson and I were working on a deal, and I went home at midnight, went to bed, and he stayed there. And at 2 o'clock, my damn phone rang. He says, "Harold," he says, "this is Arnold." I says, "Yeah, I know who the hell it is."
Uh-huh.
He says, I'm stuck." He says, "Will you come down?" He says, "I got to have some help on this damn blueprint."
My gosh.
So I said, "Yeah," and I got up, climbed out of bed, put on my clothes, and drove down there. And we got it all thrashed out. But I had to laugh, you know, he was a great big Swede too,
Mhm.
Arnold was.
Mhm.
And
Okay, back to Arnold Hanson.
yeah, Arnold, we got all through it. It didn't turn out just the way Arnold wanted it after he found out all about it.
Oh.
Arnold took the blueprint, it's a great big one, my
Yeah.
squashed it right the other, he says, "Damn."
Pitched him out, huh?
Fished it back on the table, but it didn't go swimming. Well,
Yeah.
and there are things that happen that way that you just can't help.
No, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got home after that and got to bed at 3 o'clock and got up at 6, so.
That was a short night.
Short night,
Oh,
short
boy,
night.
wasn't it? Well, that I hope was not a normal occurrence.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't normal.
Yeah.
They usually got a little more sleep than that.
Mhm.
But you go through quite a lot if you're in the plant 42 years.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no question about
Yeah.
that.
Do you think the effort during the war significantly, I'll call it stronger or harder? Do you think people worked harder than they did either before or after it?
No, I don't think they did, because there's just so much you can accomplish when you're doing a job. I don't think they worked any harder,
Okay.
but I think they did take, where it was a different kind of work and they had to be more painstaking with it. And of course, the arsenal was very, you had a army inspector in there looking over your shoulder all the time too. And some of those fellows weren't too cooperative.
Okay.
It's either this or it
It's
isn't.
black and white.
Yes.
Mhm.
I well remember a situation with the breech blocks. And I was in the breech blocks. We put those through a heat treat that we carburized. And it had a firing pin hole about that big around.
Mhm. 3 inches or so, yeah.
Well, 2.600 is what it was. I don't-
Okay.
Yeah. And it had a +2 on it. Well, I checked the darn things when they come out of the heat treat. And they weren't, we put them in at 2.600. And they didn't come out anywhere near that. They went up to 2.608.
They swelled.
Yeah, they went out like this.
Mhm.
And so the big shots up in the engineering were all perturbed about it, real perturbed.
Mhm.
So they made so much fuss of it, they sent 2, 3 guys down to the arsenal to see theirs, see how they did it. Because you had to paint this stuff with a compound when you put it in a heat treat and it come out. That was supposed to hold it, but it didn't. And so they went down there and checked it all over. And all these blocks were set out all over these benches.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they wouldn't give us a deviation for it.
Mhm.
So I expected to get fired about that.
Oh.
But they came back, and when I got down to the arsenal, they found out that what they made was the same damn
Had the same problem.
same thing. Well, it was
Yeah.
they checked them before, and that's all they did check them. They
Never-
didn't know how bad they got
Uh-huh.
after they come out of heat treat.
Uh-huh. Just assumed they were all right.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
assumed they were all right. They were all right when they went in.
Yeah.
But you see, that was one of the things
Yeah.
that they found out that didn't stay that way
Yeah.
afterwards. Well, the blocks all fired all right anyway
Yeah.
when they got
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
There was nothing radically wrong with them really, except that dimension around the firing pin had a little gaps,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, a little
Few thousand,
irregular.
a little irregular.
Uh-huh.
And it was carburized, and so well, that was a different kind of work for us.
Yeah.
We didn't, and I didn't know. I didn't never dreamed that
Sure.
they did that.
So all the folks there at the plant sort of came from a zero knowledge of ordnance work, and we all had to get smart.
All had to. That's right. And even the Army inspector had to get smart.
Oh, really?
Yes, he wasn't. He wasn't hep on that.
Uh-huh. Oh,
No,
well,
he wasn't hep on it.
yeah.
No. But we got smart in a hurry.
Yeah.
I'd tell you that.
Did we have any people other than like the ordnance inspectors? Did we have other than those, like any of the brass? Would they come down to see you?
Oh yes, Colonel Connors came.
Okay.
He came from the arsenal, water fleet, and I remember in those days they didn't smoke in the plants.
Okay.
But Colonel Connors came in and he was smoky.
Oh. Little problem there.
And I was going up and telling him, and I talked with Tom Downey.
Yeah.
Tom says, no, he says, let him smoke.
Oh, okay. So
let him smoke.
we made an exception, sort of.
Made an exception, so that's what we did. He didn't smoke much,
Yeah.
but he did light up and smoke a cigarette.
What did all the smokers do if you couldn't smoke in the plant? Where did they go?
Well, they went up in the can and smoked.
Oh, did they?
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They smoked anyway. I don't think you'd have so many smokers today, with people knowing as much as they do about tobacco
Yeah.
as they do. I don't think it'd be that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavens, I quit myself even.
Great. Now, what happened after the war, Harold?
Well, then I went over and I came back and I had a couple of fellows that were pretty good working for me, that were pretty good on these records.
Okay. You were still in inspection?
Yeah, I was on inspection.
Okay.
And I went over there. I helped the people that were putting them back get in, because I knew where everything was.
So you're now dragging the machinery back?
Back to the plant.
Okay.
Setting it in. So I helped on that a little bit.
Did it all kind of go back the same way it came out, so to speak?
Well, it wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. I thought we did a remarkable job on getting it back and getting into production.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there was a little pushing.
I
you know.
imagine.
Yeah, we were in a hurry to get going.
Yeah.
And of course, our other problem was we couldn't get aluminum for pistons.
Oh, really?
You know, so we had to make cast iron pistons, putting the first cars and
No kidding?
yeah, things like that.
Uh-huh.
We had to improvise.
Yeah.
And those cast iron pistons didn't work too bad.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they all used to
Sure,
be
it
years
used to be
ago.
years and years ago, that's
Yeah.
all they had, yeah.
But we got them going with cast iron pistons on that. I had one of those first cars with the cast iron pistons, and it run all right.
Uh-huh. And we were still making 6s and 8s,
Yeah.
straight 8s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that car was, that was really basically just 1941 and 42 stuff that we just restarted
Nothing.
again.
We hadn't done anything.
And it just brought her back and
Just
got
brought
her
back
going.
and got her going. Then we started to work on that. Then the engineers started to work on getting it better. And then along came this gang with this V8, this Kettering engine.
Yeah, the rocket,
Yeah,
yeah,
the rocket. That was in '49, wasn't it?
right.
I guess we made a few of them in '48.
Yeah, well, it probably
I
came out
remember.
late 48
Yeah.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that real well. Now we're over in that 38 with that. No, it wasn't 38, 36.
36, 38, both, yeah,
Yeah,
mostly, they were in both of those buildings,
Yeah.
yeah, the machinery was.
Yeah, I had machining that.
So that must have been empty after the war, that just sort of cleaned out, is that what
I
happened?
cleaned it out, that was Canada,
Yeah,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a 20 million.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got it out and got it running. And Marv Katke, they brought him in about that time. Do you remember Marv?
No, I do not.
Well, he was an engineer and a real good one. And he came in and helped get that going. And hell, the office was right where my office was before. It was set right up in front there.
Okay, yeah,
In that,
yeah.
that building. And test room was put right in there, back where it was.
Mm-hmm.
So those things worked out all right. And,
Do you remember how fast we were making those engines?
yeah, we got them up to 70 and 80 an hour.
70 or 80 an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
We never made 100. I didn't think they even tried for that. I personally think 100 is too damn fast an hour anyway.
Yeah.
But we did do it.
Yeah, later, yeah, we sure did, yeah. Now, were there any unique kinds of situations with the new rocket that happened during that time while we were trying to get it going?
Yeah, there were a lot of them. We got them going, and the first few they were glad to have us take them out and run them on the road, see how they work.
Okay.
My gosh, they would run pretty good, and I never will forget. I had one that I took out and tested on the road, and boy, it would really burn that road up.
Yeah.
It would really burn. I'd never driven anything that would go that fast.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I was down the proving ground with them several times too, and my God, they would go right around that track there, 100 miles an hour.
Not significantly different than the old 6 and the old 8.
Oh yes, significant, significant. Yeah, that was really probably the greatest car on the road in that era.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything can compare. We were lucky to have it. The Oldsmobile was lucky to get that.
Were
off
they?
the bat. Oh yeah, they were sure lucky. That was a Kettering engine, and it was the ultimate at that day and age.
Yes.
So things moved along.
Now, were you still, what were you doing at that, what was your task at this point in time?
I was general foreman of inspection.
Okay, for the whole end, for the, which side?
Yeah, well, both sides.
Both sides,
of the
okay.
engine.
Uh-huh.
And we went through that era, and I think that everybody recognizes now that we could outsell anybody in those days, because that was the best car going.
Mm-hmm.
I think we outsold Chevrolet and now for that. Anyway, we moved along there through those years.
Was there a lot of expansion work done during that?
Oh,
that
yes,
time? People,
yes.
higher demand and more
Yeah.
engines and...
Yeah, we expanded all over the place and started building a lot of things that we hadn't built too.
Okay.
And the sheet metal came in for a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of that. And I think that it was a great day for Oldsmobile because we took right over third spot in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to all wear number 3s.
Oh, yes, I remember those
Yeah.
little pins.
Little 3s.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I went on through the 60s, or the 50s, that way, making that car.
Okay. The inspection guys were still inspection all of this time, that they hadn't changed their name yet?
No.
Okay.
They were, I think it's the next 60s, I believe. I may be wrong on that, when they became known as Reliability.
Okay.
And then,
why did they do that? Do you have any inkle for that? Why they changed that?
well, I think they thought, people thought that inspection was an old-fashioned name.
Did they?
I think they did.
Yeah.
And they just thought they'd change it.
Yeah.
And Reliability, they put more people up in building, what is that, building,
150 or 90,
No.
or the car assembly plant?
no, I mean up over by engineering, right next to engineering. We put
Oh,
them up.
building 66?
Yeah,
Building 64. That's
building
the one.
64, yeah,
Right.
that's where they put them.
Yeah,
And in fact, I had an office up there for quite a while.
okay.
And at that time, the engineering and the Reliability got together, and they would go over these things more carefully
Okay.
and try and get product now, instead of just drawing the thing out on a piece of paper and saying, here it is, build it.
Mm-hmm.
They went through and told how they wanted it built.
Okay.
And then we knew what they were thinking, and they told us. So it all worked out a lot better.
A more cooperative
That's
effort.
right.
Uh-huh.
And then we put what we called reliability engineers in at that time. These guys were real engineers,
Yeah.
and they would look over what the product engineering put out is what they wanted, and look for any loopholes or anything that could go wrong. It's something that should have been there all the time, I think, as far as that goes. Whether you're going to call it reliability, whatever you want to call it, it ought to have been there. And it did help a lot. It helped a lot in getting reliability.
Prior to that, we didn't, how did we do those things?
They just sent down the papers, and here it is.
Here it
Now
is.
they'll send a guy down,
Yeah.
and he'll look at it, and so on and so forth that way. But
Okay.
anyway, it worked out, I thought it worked out a lot better.
Mhm.
A lot better. It was a big step in the right direction. And we did. I thought we got pretty good quality, but I find out now that quality could be improved even beyond that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's all
And I'm
relative.
sure they have, and
Yeah.
we did even well with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there more of an emphasis then on quality in that arena than quantity? How was that looked at again now?
I think it came up quite a ways. The reliability did help bring it up quite a ways, the quality. But you know, at one time, I'm sure that cars went out of the plant that were not right
Mm-hmm.
off the final assembly, because somebody would say, push them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of them.
Ship it.
And I think that's the one thing that they had to stop. They had to stop it,
Mhm.
stop it, so they knew it stopped. Of course, it's a bad situation when production gets paid on what they put out,
Quantity.
quantity,
Yeah.
and not on
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
It should be on quality and quantity too,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And certainly they've come a long ways now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The last few cars, although this last one I got had, my 88, which is not very old,
Really?
had a few bugs in it.
Mhm.
But I don't know, it isn't built the same place either. It comes out of,
Yeah, we don't make very many cars in Lansing
No,
anymore.
mine came out of Missouri,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere down there.
Yeah. See, Harold, when did you retire then?
I retired in February of 1972.
Okay. And were you up in Building 64 at that time?
Yep.
When you retired?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and what was your assignment, so to speak, at that time?
General supervisor of quality control and reliability.
Okay. Okay. Well, now, you didn't tell me much about all of the bosses you had other than the old Colt Bull of the Woods back in the 20s.
Well, he wasn't my boss.
Yeah.
Oh, way back in the days when I first went in there, Earl Pratt was my
Okay.
superintendent.
Now, he was an inspection person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What kind of a guy was Earl Pratt? Was he another Bull of the Woods, or was
Yes, he was. He was a bull of the woods,
Uh-huh.
as far as that's concerned. And
Were most of those foremen in those days that type?
yeah, they were.
Uh-huh. They were that type of individual.
There was
Uh-huh.
no guy in there strictly for up here.
Yeah.
No, there was none of that.
Yeah. Were these guys? Did they tend to be big guys?
Oh, they were big.
Big fellas.
All of them were
Uh-huh.
big.
Uh-huh.
Big as they come. They were
Mhm.
6 foot, 2 or 3, and
Yeah.
they would weigh probably 300 pounds.
Uh-huh.
200,
Okay.
300. All those top guys. Roy
Yeah.
Fisher was the same way.
Now, Roy Fisher was what was he?
Production super.
He was the production superintendent?
Frank King was the production superintendent.
All right.
That's when I started, and then
Okay.
Roy Fisher became it later.
Okay.
Roy was his assistant.
Were those fellas also old schoolers,
Yeah, they were.
the Bull of the Woods sort of folk?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Did they get out on the floor a lot?
Oh, yeah, they'd walk down through there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd see quite a lot too when they walked.
Did they?
Yeah.
Did people run and hide, or how did they?
No, they didn't allow anybody to run and hide. They
Uh-huh.
had to stay on the job.
Yeah. Were those kinds of people, could you go up to them and meet them in the aisle and talk to them about problems? Or
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
would accept that sort of?
Yeah, I could talk with Axel all right. I never had any problem talking with him, but the devil would sneak around behind my back.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then who did you work for a little later on then?
Earl Pratt, and then, let's see, trying to think who these guys were. Well, Earl was still on my boss when I went into that P8, I believe.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay.
That was that Viking.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Cliff Fetter took over for a while.
Okay.
There. Then,
Now, Cliff, how was he? What kind of?
well,
Just
he's
get
not the bull of the woods
All right,
type.
to
He's,
get a feel of these people.
yeah, and but he was all right. He worked under Earl,
Yeah.
and he came up, he came up the usual way.
Yeah.
They always had somebody in back there that they figured could take over. But then they took him from reliability and put him on production.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have him very long.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think who the hell they put in there then. I know it was quite a while down the road there when they brought, who was that guy that went to, he took a dealership out in Omaha, Nebraska.
Don't know.
God, I can't think of his name now. My memory isn't damn
That's
good.
okay. That's all right.
But anyway, I had several different bosses through that time.
All right.
And, well, it seemed like just like the chief engineers, they were dying off so fast you couldn't keep track of them. We had an awful lot of chief engineers too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Elmer Cole came along,
Okay.
and
Tell me about Elmer.
well, Elmer wasn't the bull of the woods type or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Is Elmer still alive?
Yes.
Is he?
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. Oh, still alive.
Yeah. Well, then Elmer and this other guy, what was his name, that took over? Well, Elmer was a head mogul, and they put a guy in over him when that reliability came in.
You know anything about Truxell, are you?
No,
Tommy Tompkins?
Tommy Thompson.
Okay.
Tommy Thompson came in.
Mm-hmm.
So Elmer was relegated to working for Tommy.
Yes.
That never stuck in his crop very good.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And-
Did you see Tommy at all?
Oh, yes.
Okay. How was Tommy?
Well, he was the kind of a guy who would come down and he'd come down, look the place over and say, how's things going? And ask you a question about a certain thing down here. You better know the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And although I didn't ever feel he was a man that should have been put in that position. Really didn't.
Mm-hmm. Did Tommy get out in the shop?
Once in a great while.
Uh-huh.
Once in a great while. And Elmer, I don't know. That Elmer went right downhill then.
Did he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, things weren't all they were cracked up to be in those years. But both of them were nice fellows
Yes.
as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But,
Was Tommy there when you left?
no.
Somebody else had come in?
Wait, yes he was. I think he was there when I left.
Okay.
Yeah, they told me he left shortly after that.
Yeah. Can't remember if Thick Eyes,
I can't-
Thick Eyes or somebody.
Yeah, I think Thick Eyes did take
Yeah.
over. Yeah, that's right, I heard that, but he hadn't taken over
When you had left, okay.
But I knew Dick for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who's running that now?
It doesn't exist.
Oh, it does.
No. It's like so many things, they've all disappeared.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, those were funny years and kind of traumatic in a lot of ways.
who do you think was the best boss you had?
Oh, Anthony Zam was in there too.
Okay, he was back in the 30s somewhere?
Yeah, well, he came in right after veteran.
Okay, all right.
I think Tony was one of the best bosses I ever had.
Uh-huh.
The smartest.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
Well, I liked him because of his personality.
Mhm.
He had a good personality. And he undoubtedly was sharp enough to keep everybody in tow. Wasn't the bull of the woods type of
Mhm.
guy at all. No.
That type of person, did that sort of
It
disappeared.
disappearing
It's,
right about that time,
Uh-huh.
yeah. You don't see any more of them anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think you see any, do you?
No, no,
I don't think you,
yeah, I wasn't aware of
No.
very many of those.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think you see any of them anymore. So, that's the way things developed and the way they wound up.
Harold, how did, you were there during the era when the union was formed, in
Yes,
the 30s.
yes.
What happened there?
Well, the union came in.
Were there big strikes?
Oh,
or
yeah.
What
yeah.
happened?
Hellish strikes.
Uh-huh.
It was rough.
People picketing the plant?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. And they picketed in Flint, it was worse than it was in Lansing.
Yes.
It was. But my God, and they had a Labor Day down there. And those damn yokels went downtown, they went through all the stores and everything else. They took, just like they're taking over, you know. Just like an army walking in and doing things.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right in Lansing?
Right in Lansing, oh,
Uh-huh.
yes. Yeah, it was terrible. I tell you, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing in those days.
What did the people do that were running stores and things?
They just threw up their hands.
They did?
They couldn't give up.
And they didn't bring police in or something?
Oh, you couldn't police every store in town. There
Yeah.
was hundreds of guys going through it.
Yeah.
Luckily, they didn't do too much damage to the
Uh-huh.
place. So they were lucky in that respect.
Was the plant shut down for quite a period?
Yeah, 2 or 3 days, I think.
Uh-huh. What did you guys have to do during that period when it was shut down? Did you just,
There's nothing you can do.
did you have to go picket or anything, or didn't
Oh,
they do
no,
that?
I didn't do any picketing, but
Mhm.
had to, first place, I didn't get out until after I helped close everything up
Oh, all right.
at that time. I helped close it all up.
Uh-huh.
You need quite a few guys just to do that. You have to shut down all these mechanical things that are
Mhm.
running and
Furnaces.
furnaces and all that. That isn't,
Okay.
and plating and all that. That's all takes time to take care of
Mhm.
it. And we had a hell of a job taking care of it. They walked right off.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, some of the guys hung around a little bit and helped us.
Did they?
That was
Uh-huh.
good
Yeah.
because my God,
Yeah,
yeah, those are really. That's really, it could be a calamity.
yeah. But we didn't have any major disasters with
No,
that.
we didn't. We were lucky. Like I say,
Yeah.
the key fellows quite often stayed and helped
Yeah.
close the damn thing down.
Yeah. Did we generally have pretty good, what I call labor relations?
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
years?
we had good labor relations. We had real good labor relations, come to think about it.
What do you think caused that or made that happen?
It was a general deal, and I don't think it started in Lansing by any means.
Uh-huh.
We were just for the tail wagging the,
Yeah.
you know, because it started in Flint.
Uh-huh.
That's where the hotbed was.
Yeah.
Started in Flint.
The
That's
peop-
where they got in there.
The people in Lansing just sort of followed along.
Well, you couldn't do anything else. It
Uh-huh.
finally got to the point where you couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
But it,
Did it change how, what I call management and the people work together?
maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't know how much that really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Were there what I would call management excesses that caused it to happen? What?
Well, there probably were in some places. Like you take and look back at it, and you look back at Flint, for instance, and they had those lines over there were terrible.
Uh-huh.
They were. But
Did you figure you were treated reasonably well at the plant when you were in the hourly side of the house?
oh, I always was. Yeah.
Uh-huh. You didn't feel as though people were taking advantage of you, or?
No, I never did that.
Uh-huh.
No. Our plant was maybe a model plant for General Motors. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It might have been. Yeah, I guess there were some others that were pretty good too.
Well, Oldsmobile always enjoyed fairly good labor relations.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I'm not
They-
sure
they
why,
did.
but.
They did. They did. Even in those days. Even in the early days,
Uh-huh.
I always thought it was a good place.
During the Depression, when everybody was kind of on again, off again, what did the people do during the off again period? Were they out looking for work, or?
Yeah, or else go on welfare or something, they did that.
Uh-huh.
It was a traumatic period, there's no question about that. I don't know, those times are bad.
Yeah.
Probably that was the worst part about all my life. Was, when, you know, I'd work, maybe go into work in the morning and work 2 hours and go home,
Yeah.
come back next week.
So you're just living on a shoestring.
Yeah, you don't make enough money to really
Mm-hmm.
do anything.
Did the plant, did it try to help people at all during those times?
Not very much, I don't think. Not very much.
Did people change jobs a lot, bounce around?
Yeah, there was one bunch. Yeah. Yeah. You never see the same crew there very long because somebody had gone someplace else.
Yeah.
Very bad. And wages were not very high in those days.
Had they actually gone down?
No,
They didn't. They hadn't cut your.
They hadn't cut it down very much below 50 cents an hour. No,
Okay.
They hadn't gone below that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I started at, 55 cents an hour.
Yeah. They didn't ask people like during the Depression to take wage cuts to be able to run the plant.
No.
What would they do during those big periods? Just kind of shut everything off and mothball it for that several months?
They'd shut it right down. It'd be down 6 months
Uh-huh.
at a time.
Yeah.
I went back, you know, I was there and I'd go back and go to work.
What would they do? Just call you and tell you to come on in next?
Yeah, come on in. We're gonna start up Monday morning.
Mhm.
Come on back.
So we had a plating plant
Yeah.
somewhere. Where was that? Do you remember?
We had a plating plant over right next to the axle plant.
Okay, on building like maybe 78 would that have been at that time?
I don't believe it was 78, but
All right.
I don't know just which one it was. It was right in that area.
Uh-huh.
Wright, made at Harold's home in Florida by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center on January 13th, 1989. This is tape number 2 of 2 tapes.
Harold, do you remember what any of the buildings around the old smokestack used to be for? There was I remember some numbers like 1B and 2B and 10 and 6 and 8 and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I know. There was some back in there. I think there was some plating back in there. And some of those,
Was there?
Yeah.
Were you there when the smokestack came down?
No,
Did they remember the big tall smokestack
Yeah.
we had?
I wasn't there.
Did you ever get down in the little gun range that we had in front of building 3638?
Yeah, I was down there. That was kind of a place they didn't want too many people down there.
Didn't they?
No.
What was down in there?
Oh, just a little firing range.
Did they could set up several guns and shoot at something?
Just see if the gun worked.
Did you ever watch one fired down
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Was that a noisy spot?
No, very nice. You want some ear
Yeah.
things on?
Did people wear earmuffs
Oh, yeah.
to keep the noise
You
down?
have to.
Mm-hmm.
And at the proving grounds, too, when you get down there, they'll tell you to put them on.
Mm-hmm.
Put them on, leave them on.
Mhm.
Because those things, you're encased there anyway,
Yeah.
and that damn blast,
Just reverberates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you go deep in a hurry. Most of those guys were deep down there anyway.
Were they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get over to the forge plant or plant 3 at all?
Oh, yes, I was over there for several years.
Which one?
I had the inspection of both of them.
At the forge? Okay.
I had the forge and the plant 3.
Okay, what time frame would that have been in?
60s.
Okay, what was going on at the forge plant at that time?
Well, and I was there at the time they started making the axles too.
Okay, the rear axle, the new rear axle plant?
We never made them here before, you know.
Did that
Gear
have,
cutting?
yeah, did that have some unique problems?
Oh, yes, sure did. Sure did. We had, you know, the one thing about gears is you always worry about the noise that the gear will, some of the tunes will tune you right up if you get it. We hired guys from Saginaw to come down and get that thing going, you know.
Somebody that knew how to make gears, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes, we had, well, they gave us two of their best men. Andy
Aku?
Aku
Yeah.
and his boss, what the hell is his, Gerhard.
Oh, yes, Gerhard Phillips.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Gerhard Phillips.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of animosity between their people and our people.
Oh, I see. It was one of those we they?
Yeah, kind of a rhubarb
Mhm.
sort of a deal. Yeah. And actually, when I sat down there, I think I sat right in the middle of it. Rather. And the things that went on were just terrible. I don't know. And you know, the thing of it was, if they didn't make them anywhere near specification, why, I'd just tell the boys, tag them up.
Okay.
I didn't want them getting in
Yeah.
the gears.
Yeah.
And they have a pile of those damn things sitting there. And I remember Bob Ross would come over and just shake his
Look at those piles.
Oh, yeah, he'd look at those piles and shake his head.
Uh-huh.
Well, I would too.
Yeah.
I felt just
Yeah.
as bad about it as
Yeah.
anybody did, because I didn't think we ought to have them all getting out in cars.
Oh, gosh.
I wasn't gonna have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we finally did get the damn thing ironed out after certain length of time. It was very traumatic, I can say that.
Mhm.
And looking back, I don't know what I could have done myself that would have been any different. You know, I just couldn't let them go in cars, and it was awful to make all that scrap.
Mhm.
It really was. It'd make you. I tried to get into it and get Gerhard down there and get him to organize the damn thing. And Gerhard knew gears,
Okay.
and so did Andy.
Yeah.
They both. Well, Andy was his
Sure.
number
Yeah.
2 man.
Yeah.
They both knew gears, and they could do quite a lot with them. But
What was the problem?
well, I don't know whether it was the machines or what, and then some of it might have even been some of the men.
Uh-huh.
And these guys in that plant were forge men.
Yes. That probably was a traumatic experience for those people.
It was.
Going from something that was rather coarse to something that's
Yeah,
very precision.
Very precision, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, and they didn't know, and it took quite a lot of help and a lot of diligence. Mother, a lot of diligence to get through that deal.
Yeah.
But we did. We got through it, and we made pretty good gears after a while. At the end, we were making good gears,
Mhm.
and I guess that's when it went out.
Then you left that plant.
Well, yeah, I guess I went out about that day.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I went back to the main plant. I think they were farming me out that day.
Uh-huh. Now, you mentioned Plant 3.
Well, I had
also.
plant 3 and 2 at the same
All right.
time.
What was going on over at Plant 3 while all this was happening?
Oh, hell, we had plating over there, you know.
Okay.
Fender plating,
Yeah.
and crankshafts, and a lot of that sort of stuff.
What were some of the problems of the day over at that plant, so to speak?
Well, of course, we always had trouble with the plating plant. There was always something wrong in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the crankshafts they had an engineering defect in the damn thing on that number 3 bearing that was bad.
Okay. What do you mean a defect?
Well, it wasn't a defect that got out,
Yeah.
but it was a defect in the engineering of it, I believe.
Okay.
And
How was it manifesting itself?
Well, it'd tear the engine right up.
Oh, the crank was breaking?
No, it wouldn't break. It'd just tear the engine out. And, but that was just a very few
Yeah,
incidents.
yeah,
It wasn't
sure.
a big deal.
Yeah. The plating plant, seemed like that was always a problem.
Yeah, it was, because
Nothing ever ran right.
no, never did. Never did. They always had problems. They'd have so damn many plating to take the plating off, remove it, and put it
Yeah.
on again,
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They had a lot of that.
Seems like we used to have just rack after rack of stuff sitting in the yard that
We did.
was burnt or
Yeah,
something wrong with it.
yeah. I think quality was always a problem there.
The quality on things like bumper bars was less hard to define, was it?
Yes, it was. If it's bad, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You see it
Yeah,
when it comes out.
but there were a lot of what I'd call gray kinds of areas, aren't there, and that sort of
that's
thing?
how far you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to shut the line down every day.
Yeah. Were there then a lot of get-togethers between the inspectors and the production people to
Yes.
try and define?
Real sessions,
Uh-huh.
lots of sessions. Yeah, that went on for quite a while. But I think in the end, we were doing some pretty good plating
Yeah.
over there. We had our problems, but we did come out pretty good in it. I remember Rex Carter was over there. Say, I got a letter from him the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We hope to see him when we get
Yeah.
down back in Michigan sometime again, so.
Yeah, he's up there quite a bit of
Yes.
in Lansing.
Yes, I ran into him one day over in, I guess it was the eye doctor's place when I
Did ya?
happened to be going in, yeah. Anyway, you were gonna tell me something about Rex, I think.
Yeah. He said he's going to be down here, but I don't know, I've never seen him over on this side, and I don't go over the other side very much
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. See, who was,
Bill Montz was the
okay,
master mechanic over there in
Yeah.
that forge plant.
yeah,
And he was a personal buddy of mine.
was he?
Yeah.
Now, Bill he came from the forge plant, didn't he? Was he there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was in the forge plant all the time he was
yeah,
there.
okay,
But he was major domo over there too.
yes,
And Elmer Corbin too.
yes, I remember
Elmer was
Uh-huh.
there. And Elmer and I worked together even on the line.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
in the early days,
Yeah.
we worked together.
Back in the engine plant?
Yeah, back in the engine plant.
Uh-huh.
Elmer worked in there and I
Yeah,
did too.
yeah. Can you tell me anything about Elmer, what kind of a person he was?
Elmer was a diplomat. It was a first order, I'll tell you that.
Really?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. He was sharp in that respect. You can get along with pretty near
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about Bill Mounds?
And Bill was not the diplomat that
Okay.
Elmer was by
Yeah,
any means, but
yeah.
Bill was sharp. Bill knew what the hell went on. He had a real good brain and he used it. And he still was, when those, I don't think the years ever really threw him like they did some people.
Uh-huh.
The years did throw a lot of people.
Evidently had enough experiences that.
Yeah.
Did we still have some forge plant when we were making gears?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we were forging.
Still forging things?
Yeah,
What-
right next door.
Yeah.
That's a bad deal too.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and the floor is bouncing.
Then you're
Yeah.
trying to make a little
Uh-huh.
gear cut that's
Mhm.
within a thousandth of an inch.
Yeah, yeah. What kinds of things were we forging in the forge plant? Remember any of those, Harold?
Mm. Axles.
Okay, axle shafts?
Yeah, axle shaft. And there was, trying to think, I don't believe we had any crankshafts in there at that time.
Okay, cranks had gone.
Yeah, we had, no, we
Okay,
had some.
all right.
We had some cranks
Still
in there
forging
too.
cranks.
Forging
All right.
cranks. And, oh, there were several other things, smaller items.
Mhm.
Knuckles,
Okay,
knuckles. Think back, I can get some of them, but
gears maybe? Did we make the gears for
we
the?
made some of them after we got them in there. We
Mhm.
made some of the gear
Right.
things. Yeah, there were quite a few. There's a lot of, forge plant was a big operation there.
Mhm.
Really was. I guess it isn't there anymore, is it?
Well, the forge plant has been turned into a car assembly plant
Oh, has
for
it?
Buick Riatas.
Is that right?
It's a complete plant. It does everything. Makes
Oh.
stampings and assembles bodies and makes cars.
Is that right?
So
Gosh,
things
that's
always change.
Yeah. Yeah, well, time flies.
Who was head over at Plant 3 at that time when you were there?
Rex was.
He had the axle plant, or was he the? I remember a guy by the name of McRae and Scott.
Well, McRae was there, yeah, but
All right.
McRae, after he left, I think Rex took over, didn't he?
Seems like Bob Scott. Remember Bob Scott?
Yeah, I remember, but he got sick, didn't he?
Well, he left eventually.
Something happened to him, he went downhill fast there. Yeah, Bob Scott, I remember him, but I don't remember him over there.
Yeah, all right.
Must have come in after I did. He must have brought him in and put him over.
Mm-hmm. He could have, it might have been after you, it's perhaps
I-
after you left.
It must have been after I left, because I don't remember Bob Scott.
Okay.
Buell Sadler was in there,
Okay, I remember that name.
you know.
Was he in the plating end of the business, or?
Yeah, he was in flat and sheet metal and all that.
Okay.
I remember once I went down to Erie Proving Ground with him. This is comical.
Okay.
And he said, "You drive back." So I was driving back. We left down there about, this was on a Friday night. We wanted to get home, you know, for the
Yeah,
weekend.
sure.
And I was driving and I came into a little town, well, just outside of Toledo, just a little jerkwater. And back in those days, was the first time they put lights on school buses. You know.
Oh, yes, yeah, right.
And I came up to that damn thing and I saw those lights going, so I stopped. And I said, and the guy honked his horn behind me, and I said, "Aren't we supposed to stop here for these school buses?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I don't know." He says, "Why the hell don't you just go along slow and go on?"
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I did. And right behind that damn bus was a cop.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was just creeping, and I didn't know whether the law was there or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, he pulled me over before I got a block. He says, "Follow me." Well, he wheeled me clear over into the south part of Toledo and took me down in the basement of a house. And then he came out, and this is kind of comical. Bill was sitting right there with me, and actually he was to blame for me getting the damn thing. And he says, "I've got a brother-in-law who's justice of peace here." And I said, "Well, get a hold of him if you know him." So, well, the guy, but in the meantime, the judge says, "I want to know what you want to do. How do you want to plead?" I said, "I'd like to know something about what the charge is and what your fines are and all that. What you're talking about." Well, he says, you pass a school bus and that's against the law. And he says, "I want to know how you plead." I said, "Well, I have my friend is doing some talking with another justice of peace here," and I said, "He's going to get an answer for me in a few minutes, and I'll let you know then." He said, "Well, I don't like to be held up this way." He says, "I'm going to fine you $100 plus $35 cost." Just then, Bill got his guy on the phone, and he handed him the thing, and this guy told him, he said he was a justice, or told him something between the two of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, he hung up the phone like that. He says, "The fine is reduced to $15.
Took care of that. Huh?
I paid the $15 and got the hell out of there in a hurry. But
Well, I got trapped.
Yeah. Well, I should have been smarter to take his advice.
Yeah. And of course, there weren't any,
But we were in a hurry. I didn't want to sit there all night.
yeah. Then there weren't any freeways and those kinds of things. It was just all city roads practically.
Just two lane,
Yeah.
and that's all you had. It was all held up there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But you run into some doozies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt pretty lucky about getting out of it $15.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Who do you think was, did you have any dealings with any of your general managers during that time, Harold?
Oh, yeah, I had dealings with all of them, frankly. Pontiac general managers and,
Any of the Oldsmobile general managers like Wolfram or
oh,
those
yeah, I
kinds of
knew
guys?
Jack, I knew him very well. But, and Jack was a pretty good manager.
Was he?
Regardless what anybody wants to say, Jack
Mhm.
was a pretty good manager.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pretty sharp individual. And you know, he's the guy that started that Cutlass. You have to give him all the credit for it because
Mhm.
he's the one that developed it and
Mhm.
got it going. He
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, that name has been a good
Yeah,
name to Oldsmobile.
His daughter and my wife were very close friends.
Mhm.
So, and I knew him through her
Mhm.
originally. And
Any of the other ones that you were aware of?
Skinner, I knew Skinner,
Okay.
and
What kind of a person was Skinner?
he was a real good man too. Skinner did a lot to help put us back on our feet.
Did he?
At Oldsmobile, and originally, before him. Who the hell was, well, I know Ralston run it for a short time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew Dave real well.
Did you? Yeah, he was down here, wasn't he?
Yeah, I knew him
Yeah.
after I got here too.
Yeah.
He used to go to the same deal that Bob Russell's telling me
Sure,
about.
yeah.
Dave and,
Yeah.
I used to pick Dave up.
What can you tell me about him? Because we really don't know much about him.
Dave Ralston, he's a very sharp, very good individual. But he was a really good salesman too,
Okay.
good sales manager.
Yeah. Was he approachable?
Oh, yes,
Did you
Dave
go up
was,
and talk to him?
you could talk with Dave real good, and he was a very nice gentleman. And his wife was very nice too. They were a nice family. And let's see, we had somebody in between us. We had so many general managers in there. Sales managers too.
Yes.
I knew a bunch of them.
Yeah.
G. Rocket Jones, I always
Okay.
liked him. He was a real blood and guts guy in a way.
Was he?
Yeah, but he can go right after him.
Typical salesman, sort of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
typical salesman.
Yeah.
I was sitting up at one of those meetings that they used to have up there in the auditorium, sitting with him, and going along on the speeches, and he says, "God, I wouldn't have to get up there pretty soon." He says, "I don't know what the hell to say." I says, "Oh, just go up and give him the usual blood and guts story." And he laughed, and he did. Yeah, he got up and gave it to him.
He was kind of like a coach, a football coach or
Yeah,
something
something like that, yeah. He was real good.
Uh-huh.
God, he was a millionaire too, before he ever came here.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then in Gospel, there was this one guy that drank like a fish. What the hell was his name?
A salesperson?
Yeah, sales manager.
Was that, see, there's Vic Sutherland and Emmett Feely.
And the guy right after Emmett Feely, I always used to
Can't remember.
ask Emmett if his initials weren't IP, and he's
Yeah, right. I've heard that one before.
oh. A guy that came up from Ann Arbor, I can't think of his name. But there was quite a bunch of sales managers and general managers. Then there were the guys like Hanson,
Russ Hanson?
Russ Hanson,
Okay.
that was, and Tom Downey and those fellows, they were second in command, but they were darn good men.
Tom Downey, did you deal with him to some
I don't
degree?
know a lot.
How did he manage people? Or
Very well.
was he
He was not he wasn't a real rugged guy, but he was smooth,
okay?
very smooth. He could
Yeah.
handle any situation.
Yeah.
Like if he runs, who didn't know the difference whether Wolfram was there or not, as long as he was
Uh-huh.
there.
Was he approachable?
Oh yeah,
You could
yeah.
walk up to him
Oh
and
yeah,
talk to him?
walk right up. I did. I
Uh-huh.
always talked with him
Mhm.
about anything that came up. If he came down, I'd
Mhm.
go out and talk with him. You bet.
Russ Hanson?
Russ is the same way. I always got along with Russ.
Mm-hmm.
And John Dykstra,
Okay.
there's another one. Of course, he went on and
Mhm.
become a Ford man.
Yeah. Yeah. How John approachable? Is he?
He was approachable, but he's set in his ways. God, he was set. You do it either his way or else. You
Okay.
don't do it in.
No new ideas, so
No.
to speak.
No, you just do it this way.
Mm-hmm. How about Skinner? Was he?
No, Skinner wasn't that way. He'd listen to you.
He would.
Skinner would listen to you, yeah. If you had something to say to him, he'd listen.
Wolfram?
Wolfram was the same way. He'd listen to
He
you.
would listen to you?
He'd listen to you. Yeah. Yeah, most of our general managers have been pretty good men, though, as you go down through the line.
Uh-huh.
And I found it the same way in the other plants when I'd go in and see them. I had to see quite a few of them.
Yeah. Well, any what I'll call unique happenings that you can think of that, other than what we've talked about, that might be of interest?
Well, I can't think of much else that'd be of interest to us. I was trying to. I did have a chance once we went into Ford's torque plant or something to look it over for a process they had.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through it and I thought to myself, at that time, that plant wasn't anywhere near an equal to ours.
Mm-hmm. Was that an engine plant?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dirtier and everything else. It didn't compare. But I'm sure they've came a long way since then.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask you, back when you first came to work, Harold, did the plant use like safety glasses, or weren't those required?
Didn't wear them. Didn't have to have them.
Okay.
That came in, those things all came in while I was there. We had an awful lot of innovations while I was in the plant.
Mm-hmm. When the safety glass, like when safety glasses came, was that a thing that people tended to resist, or did?
Yes, they resisted it at
They
first.
did, huh.
We had to send them home.
Really?
They wouldn't wear them, we sent them home. Because too many guys were getting their eyes out, you know, in the
Oh,
plant.
boy,
It was a damn good thing they put them in.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I'll tell you that.
Any other, what I'll call, safety or those kinds of things that changed over that continuum that you were there?
Safety shoes,
All right.
they came in. And those were a steel-toed shoe, but
Yeah.
they did save an awful lot of toes and
Okay.
feet. Not from cellar blocks and from trucks and everything else.
Mhm.
They helped all the way along. Very good deal. I always wore them.
Any change in emphasis on safety over those years?
We always had a lot of emphasis on safety. Always had a safety director,
Mm-hmm,
all the time I was there.
yeah.
And he always was a conscientious guy, but, you know, sometimes in spite of all you do, things happen
Yeah.
along that line. I remember in the block floor, there was nothing for me to get something in my eye when I was working down there.
Piece of cast iron dust
Yeah,
or something?
Something like that. I'd be in and have it picked out, maybe a half a dozen each.
Mm-hmm. You then had first aid kinds of things?
Oh, yeah,
in the plan.
we had real good first aid, and that's the one important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You always could go up there and they'd always take it out. Or else they couldn't, they'd send you downtown
Mm-hmm.
to a doctor. I've had to go down there a couple times. But
Did you get breaks to go to the men's room, or?
oh, they never always said you could go to the men's room.
You just stopped and went?
Yeah, well, you told it, if you was on the line, you had to tell somebody to take over
Okay.
for you.
All right.
Tell them.
So you had somebody that would fill in for you?
Yeah, you had some, always had an extra guy in there. You always could take over, but if you had to go. And of course, as far as I was concerned, when I was working, I never wanted to go any more than I had to,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I think that's the general rule. I never seen anybody that was abusing that very much.
Did you have coffee or vending machines or those kinds of
No,
things?
none of that.
None of that
None of that, but
in the early days?
carried a little sandwich or you wanted something to eat or something like that.
Okay. People carried a lunch bucket generally?
Yeah, they generally carried a lunch bucket.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was the general rule.
When you were breaking in on all of those different jobs that you were going around on early on, did you have somebody there that showed you how to do it, or did you have to learn them all on your own, so to
Oh,
speak?
no, you were shown how the hell to do it.
Okay.
Then you go and carry on for 2 or 3 days yourself. Make sure it's working good.
Mhm.
There always was a relief man everywhere in all the plants. Very interesting. In a way, I enjoyed it. But this one guy that was going around at the same time I did, Mike Nestel, his name was.
Mhm. That's one of those 3 people you were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can't think of the other guy's name, but he was a sharp little individual. One of them died, and one of them left, so I was able
Mhm.
to. See, the company can put in a lot of money and lose almost everything there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there training programs for people in those days?
Not much. No, they never had much of them.
All right.
No. They just brought you in and put, there you are.
Go to work.
Yeah, they show you how it does,
Uh-huh.
and then you go to work.
Okay.
Damien, don't make a mistake. That was also part of it.
Uh-huh. How did you know enough like to change drills and those kinds of things then?
Well, they sometimes on drills that broke or dulled up, they'd have a schedule
Okay.
set up. Maybe you run 100 pieces, you change drills.
Oh, all
And
right.
it goes up to 2 of them.
Uh-huh.
See?
Did you have gauges then? Did you have any kind of gauges that
Oh
you
yeah,
checked?
they had zip
things that
gauges,
you
plug
made?
gauges.
Okay,
boom,
for
boom.
holes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
things like that. Yeah. And actually, in those days, they had indicators for alignment and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing. The rod.
Was the gauging all done by the operator himself in those days?
No, he did his own gauging, but then the inspector would always go, there'd always be a floor inspector go along and plunk, maybe every hour or every 2 hours.
Pull out a part or two?
And check it.
Check them.
Just to be sure he was checking it right.
But most people were responsible for
That's
their
right.
own operation?
They were. And they did a pretty good job of it, as far as that goes.
Okay. Did that philosophy change in any as time went on?
I think when they got inspectors, some of them got to the point where they thought that they ought to have an inspector for every piece they made, you know. That was one of the problems in that crankshaft deal.
Yeah.
The operator didn't do a checking. He'd sit on his butt and have an inspector come along and do it.
And tell him what was wrong.
Yeah.
So there were some places then that kind of lost that approach that,
Yeah.
that was used in the earlier
Yeah,
days.
they did. So see, the crankshaft department came down to Lansing from Saginaw.
Oh, really?
That was back when the crankshafts actually came in there, is when that engine was, V8 Viking engine was when that went out, then the crankshaft went right up in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were buying fully machined cranks from Saginaw?
From Saginaw, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they brought that line down here.
All right. Machinery and all?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and set it up.
Mhm.
The way it went. Oh, there's a lot happened over 42 years. There's no
Oh, boy,
question
sure
about
has,
that.
Harold. Been a good discussion, though. We
Mhm.
covered a lot of the waterfront.
Yeah.
Nice discussion. Well, you think we pretty well,
I think you pretty well covered me.
okay,
Can't think of anything else now.
that's great.
Interesting.
Yeah, appreciate it. Both Helen and I do. Shut that off.